Can anybody say, I won't have stress? No. Because what happens in stress, the whole thing looks so big. It's like a mountain when you go and see that from a distance. See, it's easy to say, just don't think about it. It's not that you want to think about it, but your thought keeps on happening automatically. And so you might not have a control over the outside situation, but you can definitely have a control over yourself. And as for the human, the biggest advantage that he has is his intellect.
Okay, good afternoon and welcome to yet another episode of Business Networking with Vipul Bondal. Today is the 3rd of September 2025 and we are recording our 55th episode. I have a very special guest today, somebody I've known and admired for over 20 years, very good friend, Mr. Guruprasad Shetty. I call him fondly, call him Guru because he's a guru in many ways. And you'll learn about this in the podcast. So, with your permission, can I call you Guru?
Yes, of course, you can call me Guru.
Okay, great. So, I'll give you a little brief introduction of Guru. So, Guru is a BCom graduate with a degree in law. He worked with Eureka Forbes Limited and Modi Xerox in senior management positions. And then he began his entrepreneurial journey. He promoted uh, Apple Office Products Private Limited, manufacturing computer stationery. He is a co-promoter of Lifestyle Retail Private Limited, which is in the business of manufacturing contemporary women wear. And he is also the proprietor of Status Restaurant in Lower Parel, a reputed veg family restaurant. So all of the people who work in Lower Parel may be having their meal there. So this guy is the owner. He is also the chairman legal of the Indian Hotel and Restaurant Association, also known as AHAR, and has won some landmark cases in the Honorable Supreme Court of India that allowed competition in electricity distribution in Mumbai, giving consumers a choice among electricity distributors. So, if some of you use Tata Power, Mr. Shetty is, been in part of the fight that allowed people to choose between electricity distribution companies. He was also involved in a case which disallowed TDLR, where BEST was not allowed to recover some of the transport losses that it made from electricity consumers. So, for removal of TDLR, Mr. Shetty played a very, very important role. That's a case which is in the final hearing at the Appellate Authority of Electricity. He is a publisher of 3 books on stress reduction. So his first book is called Stress Simplified, and you can see it there behind him. You can see the photographs of the 3 books. The second one is Stress Reduction Simplified, and his latest book, The 100 Stories That Can Help You Reduce Stress, which has become a bestseller in Amazon. He is also the founder of Stress Research India, which has a mission to reduce stress. So we'll talk about all of these things with Mr. Shetty. But before that, welcome to the podcast, Guru.
No, it's my pleasure. It's my privilege. Thank you. Thanks a lot. Yes.
Okay, great. So, you have a very colorful and a very varied kind of a background. So if you can touch upon your life journey so far, you began your career in the corporate sector, then you moved on to, or probably simultaneously, became a proprietor, became a business owner, and you've fought these 2 3 landmark cases, and now you've gone on to write about stress, especially stress reduction. So if you can just walk us through your interesting journey so far, it'll be great to begin from that perspective.
Yeah. Thank you, Vipul. Okay, thanks for inviting me. Let me just share. I think I had a fabulous life journey. Absolutely amazing. See, because basically I started my career with Eureka Forbes.
Right.
I was heading the Bangalore division and subsequently the south part of it. And subsequent to that, I joined Modi Xerox. And one
Right.
of my responsibility in Modi Xerox was with regard to handling their copier paper division. That's how basically I learnt a lot about copier paper. And then I started my own venture called Apple Office Product Private Limited. In Apple, we were basically, or rather manufacturing copier paper per se, the conversion part of it, and also had a computer stationery called Apple Business Form.
Right.
So this, because what the entire journey, entrepreneur journey, it was a line extension which I had as far as the overall the journey itself that came across over here. But the restaurant was more of a challenge. Now,
Right.
challenge part of it, as far as the restaurant was concerned, like suppose basically my dad used to have a very small restaurant called Netaji Arogya Bhavan at Lower Parel, and
Right.
he had gone for a road widening. And
Okay.
all his life, because basically he fought the case, and like suppose, and then when he expired, he had a desire because he had lost his restaurant as such. So I took it up as a challenge because I was a legal graduate and I understood the system pretty well. Even in my corporate life, I had handled a lot of legal matter.
Right.
So for the very first this one, like suppose basically that was a very, very interesting thing because here the BMC and MADA was involved. And for the very first time, I think possibly wherein the the land that was given, that taken for setback, that is the road widening, we could get BMC and MADA to agree, and basically they gave us a small place as far as Lower Parel itself was concerned in one of the MADA redeveloped building. Subsequent to that, like suppose typically added on to it, and the fact that I was doing some other business, like for the very first time, even in Shetty industry, I like typically strengthened the workers. I got specially strengthened the workers and had this status. Now the status has become a very iconic. It is one of
Right.
the very, very iconic kind of a restaurant. Anybody in Lower Parel, they would know status as such.
Right.
And, it is quite well known even all over Mumbai. Like there are times when you meet people, say in Bangalore or this one, and then comes across, then you say status Lower Parel. Some of the other person would have come across, and
Absolutely.
it has become fairly very this one as far as iconic.
Correct.
Okay, now that's fairly very interesting. Like suppose typically everything quite good and all that, then I became very, very ambitious. So we had this company called Lifestyle Retail Private Limited, which I
Right.
promoted with my wife, who is a fashion designer.
Right.
And a small venture, that time the IPO bug, it hit us. We met a consultant and then the IPO and this one. So that was supposed to come across and all that. So he advised us to expand, like suppose expand. So we expanded factories, we expanded showrooms. We basically, with regard to the various supply, so on and so forth, kind of a scenario that we did, we expand in a big way. The idea
Right.
was that you expand. Okay, like that was the concept of a cash burn which was coming in, like the concept which is very, very famous. So cash burn and then you cash earn. So
Right.
that was the idea. But
Okay.
unfortunately, like suppose we expanded in a very, very big way. Unfortunately, one of the major people that we were supplying to a company called Maya Retail, which was a part of
Right.
Gitanjali Export, and
Right.
there was an issue with Gitanjali Export, and
Right.
people associated or rather basically suppliers and all that kind of a thing. So the government, so suddenly there was. Regulatory action, the bank freezing, so on and so forth, whatever this one. Like,
Hmm.
so you see, like
Yeah.
what hits when nobody knows. Like it was quite a sudden. And unfortunately for me, like I had tasted success for such a long period of time, I didn't know how to handle setbacks. It was fairly
Okay.
very, very unfortunate. And so it hit me hard as far as
Hmm.
the this one. So, like suppose typically when stress hits you hard,
Right.
you can hardly think. Your mind is not working.
Right.
You are absolutely overwhelmed by the situation. And then the whole thing started. Like you couldn't sleep. Okay, you get irritated, you get angry. My blood
Right.
pressure increased.
Hmm.
With diabetes had come up. There was some. heart issues,
Okay.
various complications which came
Hmm.
was and all that. And unfortunately, what happens is in that kind of a situation also, it affected personal relationship, like within the family, so on and so forth, kind of thing. It affected because you don't know what exactly is happening with
Right.
you. You are not able to handle the situation as such.
Right.
Now, at that period of time, meeting a doctor or therapist was supposed to be some kind of a taboo kind of a thing that
Right.
whoever advised,
Correct.
you didn't have this one. So you met people, then somebody said that, okay, listen, this is nothing, nothing. You just don't just think about it.
Hmm.
Yeah, so it's easy to say, just don't think about it. It's not
Correct.
that you want to think about it, but your thought keeps on happening automatically. A lot of people,
Right.
when they get stressed, they will understand that the thoughts they keep on happening automatically.
Automatic. Correct.
Somebody said that, okay, listen, do yoga, do meditation. I went for yoga. I went for yoga and, the various this one. I went across to Dharmasthal. I went across to Kaivalya Dham. I learned yoga.
Hmm.
I was doing meditation.
Okay.
But you see, the problem here, because these are where it manages the stress for that period of time.
Yeah.
And then after some period of time, if the thoughts return, you again get back into stress, again get
Correct.
back, have that issue with sleeping and all that kind of a scenario.
Right.
Then, suppose people said, okay, listen, you have not been religious and all that. So you go to Tirupati, you go this one, Siddhi,
Right.
and all that kind of a scenario. Everything, whatever people said, that I was doing.
Correct.
It was not helping me. My diabetes was going up. My, suppose the blood pressure part of it, medication, like subsequent to that therapist and all that kind of a thing that I did go. The medication used to put me off to sleep. It was more like a sleeping medicine, so on and so
Sleeping.
forth. The overall this one was that, suppose you were not your self part of it as far as
Right.
situation. Then it came when I said, suppose, I need to take care of myself.
Hmm.
Okay. So it was a situation, my children were still studying, so on and so forth. I can't afford a situation wherein I fall sick,
Right.
come across, be a vegetable, so on and so forth, kind of a scenario. So I said, I
Correct.
need to take care of myself.
Right.
That is when I went deep into research because
Okay.
the idea was that I wanted to, because I said there has to be some solution. So there is a need. I went deep into that as far as the research itself is concerned. I
Okay.
studied, the various research that was taking place in Harvard. I did
Hmm.
study with regard to Harvard is beautiful. Like suppose if anybody can, this one, there is something called a happiness course.
Right.
Okay, that's absolutely amazing. We can get
Hmm.
so much information that is that comes in. I went into the
Right.
mindfulness-based, stress reduction. I studied about what was the research being done in Yale, the Stanford Medical School, so on and so forth. So practically, a lot of study was done. I practically went across various books and so on and so forth because I wanted to help myself.
Okay.
One very, very beautiful thing which I want to share. Like at that period of time, I was lucky.
Okay.
I came across about the story of Amitabh Bachchan
Okay.
and how he bounced back from stress.
Right. Okay.
A lot of people would have heard about that story.
Okay. So
Absolutely.
for our audiences, why don't you tell us that
Yeah,
story
yeah,
again?
I'll exactly come to the lesson which might help
Sure.
the audiences, basically pick up the lessons as far as the stress.
Okay.
Getting back as far as the story itself is concerned, see, Amitabh had a very, very successful career. That's when he decided to organize the industry
Hmm.
and floated a company called ABCL,
Yeah.
Amitabh Bachchan Corporation Limited. Okay. So
Correct.
the whole idea was that he was supposed to be in, suppose all aspect of entertainment. He wanted to do Disney in India.
Hmm.
And like it happens, you never know in life what can misfire. So things misfired. So when it things misfired, though they started doing a lot of heavy borrowing, and when you tend to do borrowing in India, see the problem here happens to be like unlike what happens in West, in India, even if you borrow for your company, you have to give your personal guarantee.
Guarantees.
So your personal asset comes under risk as far as
Right.
the this one for a company's liability.
Right.
So he had the same thing because ABCL went bankrupt, and when it went bankrupt, so the bankers, creditors, and all that, went.
Right.
So his assets were attached. Okay,
Okay.
and the other issue was that because basically he was not getting work because the producers they all combined, and they said that this guy was threatening our industry, so let's not give him any work, kind of a scenario.
Right. Okay.
Okay, so bank account, this one attached, his assets were attached,
Hmm.
multiple number of litigations, so on and so forth, kind of a thing.
Yeah.
Amitabh, yeah, like initially went across the same as far as the stress itself is concerned, but subsequent to that, he decided to take the entire situation, the problem in his hand. He took it as a challenge.
Right.
The important word, the challenge part of it, because here the entire stress reduction is based. So when he
Okay.
took it as a challenge, so what he did was that, okay, because basically as far as that, okay, he took that, okay, as a problem. Now, as far as the problem itself was concerned, his mind worked that let's work out the solution.
Correct.
So the first thing that he did was, as far as working out the solution was that he, instead of sending his, the CA, lawyers and all that, he took charge. He went to the bankers, he understood, and he sat with them. And when he gave them a signal that he wants to settle and, like suppose payback and all that kind of thing, the banker were
Correct.
also helpful. So like a lot of this one, you see, like suppose basically compounding of the interest and all that, like suppose they came across,
Right.
he worked out what is called as those days one-time settlement, because you could settle the account. Kept the
Correct.
bank was his banker. So, like suppose he could work that kind of a thing across. So that's A. And B part of it happened to be that itself was a fairly very big amount, not but that big that originally what it was thought about. So this is an important thing, because what happens in stress, the whole thing looks so big. It's like a mountain when you go and see that from a distance.
Right.
When you take charge, when you go, it is not a mountain, it's a more small molehill which you can literally, very easily,
Surmount. Yeah.
come out. But when you don't, when stress takes over, the entire thing looks very, very big.
Right.
This one that we need to learn from Amitabh Bachchan happened to be because, see, he did cut cost.
Hmm.
Okay, and cut cost what? Because what we need to understand happens with that when he did go to Yash Chopra's residence asking for work, there's a separate this one, he drove
Yeah.
himself. It was not a driver and all that kind of a thing, because wherever he could cut cost, he did cut cost.
Hmm.
And what I like the best about the whole thing happens to be that his son, Abhishek Bachchan, that time used to study in Boston.
Hmm.
Amitabh Bachchan called his son back, telling him that, listen, we can't spend on your education now. You come back and help the family in getting out of the financial situation.
Okay.
Why I'm saying it is so important happens to be that many a time when people face a financial setback, they
Hmm.
don't want the world to know, they hide, and then they try to create that everything is okay kind of a scenario.
Right.
They don't face the problem on this one. And imagine asking your son to come back when he's
Hmm.
studying so and so forth kind of a scenario, but he had no qualms. What we need also to understand happens to be that when the work was not coming to him, he went to work, okay, asking for work.
Hmm.
He went to Yash Chopra's residence. He told Yash Chopra, I don't have work. Please give me work.
Hmm.
Yash Chopra got a shock of his life because a big star asking for a work kind of a scenario.
Correct.
Okay. So he, like, suppose he did this one, so, like, suppose, so when it came to that situation, the other thing happens to be that, remember at that time, television was supposed to be a small, it was
Smaller daddy.
small as compared to a screen was big. A
Yeah.
big screen star in television was not something unthinkable.
Man.
But Amitabh Bachchan had absolutely no hassle in accepting, being the host for Kaun Banega Karodpati, because his thinking was clear that I need money and wherever it is coming from. So if it is coming from Kaun Banega Karodpati, so because he took that kind of thing, his family was against, his friends were against. They said that your image is going to be down. But
Yeah.
the thing happened to be, he said, I have a problem, I have to find a solution
That's the
to the problem.
solution. Amazing.
And so that's where he took that this one as far as Kaun Banega. Okay, and other thing that many people don't know about it happens to be that he had also no qualms in being a voiceover artist.
Correct.
Okay, so there were films, the Lagan, the background voices of Amitabh Bachchan.
Yeah.
Yeah,
True.
can you imagine, like suppose a big star? No, I want you. You would perfectly understand the situation
Yeah.
when you compare it, because there was also one more star at that period of time. I will not name him.
Yeah.
People will know he was a bigger star than Amitabh Bachchan.
Right.
But what happened was, like suppose when there was a setback, when some of his movie failed, he cocooned himself in his bungalow. He started drinking. He stressed himself out. He became overweight. He had issue with his family. He fought with his family. His wife and kids walked off
Right.
alone. Okay, and he went through so much this one, because basically like suppose he was going through stress that was coming out, and
Hmm.
that destroyed that person. Absolutely an amazing kind of a star. But what the issue,
Difference
the
between him and
difference that you can see was that Amitabh Bachchan saw that there is a problem. He took that as a challenge, and he said he adjusted himself to the situation and
correct.
found solution.
Correct.
Well, this star, he refused to adjust.
Right.
He refused to adjust. He was stuck this one. So because basically stress consumed him, and we lost him at a fairly very this one. And when he was lost, like suppose it was a miserable
Hmm.
kind of a picture. That was so unfortunate. This is a comparison that I give it to you across to you, like suppose how it does help. Now this was very inspiring even for me, because see, I was not in that bad position like it was. So when uh, I took it as a challenge, my own situation,
Right.
okay, at that period of time, I could literally work out solution for my problem.
Right.
Because, see, the thing was that there was a need for acceptance.
Hmm.
Now, in my case, I was not prepared to accept that we had lost. And second thing
Right.
going to be like, suppose I was looking for this one, that trying to fight court case, trying to have this one, that I'm not responsible. It is not my problem. That why are you dragging me in and all that kind of a scenario. You can't help it, because like suppose as far as the government. But the day I decided, like suppose my mental wellness is more important.
Right.
See the money part of it, the
Hmm.
losses. The simple thing that came across to me at that time, Vipul, was, see, as long as you're healthy, you
Hmm.
always will have a lot of opportunity. Okay. But
Absolutely.
if you get stressed and it harms your health,
Yeah.
okay. See, the problem was there. The problem is off. Okay. It is
Yeah.
there right now. They are just temporary.
Yeah.
But if you get stressed, so your diabetes, your blood pressure, your heart condition, your cholesterol, it does not leave you immediately. It's a lifelong kind of a situation.
Yeah.
Okay, so the thing happens to be, so there's where it becomes so important as far as the stress reduction, and that's
And that's how you did your study on stress.
on stress. That's how I began the study on stress. So I decided, like, see, because what happens is God has been very, very kind to me overall. And the fact happens to be, like one more restaurant here or one more business there. Instead of that, I decided that I'll dedicate my life into reducing stress. Okay,
Okay.
because I thought that's my life mission.
Okay.
So that's how I said, let me just share with everybody
Your
I have learned, whatever my this
s-
one, because now what is fairly very important happens to be that I need to put across. See, practically what is available right now, what most people they talk about happens to be stress management. When
right.
people they talk about stress, like stress management, whether yoga, meditation, so on and so forth kind of a thing. You're not addressing the problem. So my idea was that let me just first put across, what, like suppose as far as the stress itself is concerned, what is stress? So came out with my first book. So this was my first book called Stress Simplified. And it was more theoretical, so on and so forth kind of a scenario. So then I came out with my second book where I came across this solution, Stress Reduction Simplified. And to make it very, very easy for people, I said, let's connect it with actual, life
Right.
situation, the various this one. So that's how I came to write this book, 100 Stories to Reduce.
Correct. Correct.
Sorry, that's my life story. Please, Vipul, yeah.
Okay. So you kind of answered everything that I wanted to ask you actually in one question. No, not really. So let me ask you. So this word stress is used very loosely sometimes, I feel, by a lot of people. Uh, Maybe they have some tensions or some pressure, but that's called stress sometimes. So what is stress, Guru? I mean, how does one identify stress? What are the ill effects of stress? And let's say somebody is actually suffering from stress, then what are the symptoms that are visible? And then they can identify that they are having a problem with stress and then they need to deal with it. So let's begin with what is stress.
Amazing. And thanks for asking that question, because this needs to be absolutely clarified and told in a very, very simple format.
Correct.
What is stress? Let's what is stress? See, stress is nothing but an arousal that arises in your body.
Right.
Why? Okay. See, as far as the stress itself is concerned, it is a part of the autonomic nervous system response. It is basically, a response that is triggered in your body for survival, as far as survival. Now, here it's very, very important to understand, like suppose,
Right.
what is the survival and why the stress, so on and so forth. What is the survival? So stress, if you read, technically, other way, most of the people, they talk about fight or flight, the fight or flight response. Okay, so what is the fight or flight response? So what happens is your body is aroused to fight or flight when when the brain, it feels threatened. When the brain,
Right.
when the brain, you put across, at that period of time, the brain thinks that you are in some kind of a threat, and then it arouses the body to fight or flight to save your life.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. What we need to understand happens to be that this is a typical response is there in all animals. Whether any animal that you see, whether it's a dog or a monkey or any animal that you see, so when it feels threatened at that period of time, it will automatically get stressed. It will fight or will try to run.
Run away. Yeah.
Yeah. A simple observation is, see the dogs. So it will start barking, it will start shivering and so on and so forth. And when it sees that this one is bigger and is going to get hurt, so that's the time it is going to run away. That is exactly typically what is happening even in the human body.
Okay.
Okay.
Understood.
Okay. So now why it is happening as far as human body is concerned? Because see, whether we like it or not, whether we like it, as far as the human also are part of the animal kingdom.
Correct.
Okay. So humans, so like suppose, scientifically, humans are actually considered to be the first cousin of the chimpanzee,
Okay.
scientifically, because 98 to 99% of the DNA, they, this one, they change.
Right.
But, what made us human is also the answer to stress.
Hmm.
Now, you'll ask me what made us human. See, what made us human, the difference between human and an animal happened to be the humans, when they faced a problem, they used their intellect to find solution to the problem.
Right.
Okay. So what happened was, like, suppose when they faced tigers and lions, which were the predators, so these people used their intelligence, and that's how they must have first thrown the stones, and then they came out with spear. Now they have come out with bullets. Okay.
Correct.
So they used their intellect. They didn't go across fighting stronger or running faster. No. Because what happened was the humans, they said, they use the intellect. Okay, here is a problem. Now, what is the solution to a problem? Why this is important? Because remember, the chimpanzee, which is the first cousin, the scientists believe that we have only the common ancestor. So the chimpanzee, the first cousin, they got stressed, they still get stressed. If there is a
Right.
problem they face, they get stressed, they get upset, they get angry, they get, they fight or they run away. Okay. So if you ever see this one, the chimpanzee, they are there because they are still get stressed. And remember, it would be not far to say that if humans had only got stressed when they faced a problem, this would have been like a chimpanzee, still running naked around and jumping on trees and all that. Okay.
Right.
So the humans, like suppose basically what happened was that when they faced a problem, so they must have got stressed for a temporary period of time, then they sat down and came across with solution. So here the thing happens to be like suppose first thing is understand the stress would be triggered if there are some problem or challenges.
Right.
And when this stress gets triggered, okay, it automatically comes across because basically that is the instinct, the basic instinct
Right.
for survival kind of a thing.
Right.
But here we need to understand one fundamental thing that we need to understand happens to be that nature designed stress to handle the problem that was created by nature. So nature created stress within us because of the problem it throws. So what was the problem? The problem was, for example, like suppose typically there would be your lions and tigers chasing, or you had some natural disasters and all that. So at that period of time, like suppose even today, if a lion or a tiger chases you, stress is the best response.
Yeah. Yeah.
If there's a natural this one, okay. But what is happening this one? So the typically today human do not necessarily face the problem that is created by nature.
Right.
Because today the humans face problem that is created by the human intellect, by humans.
But the
What
humans.
is,
Okay.
yeah, what is the problem that we are facing today? So somebody will have a problem in the office. Somebody has got a work pressure. Okay, somebody has got a money pressure. Somebody kid is worried, what marks they are getting.
Correct.
Okay. So as far as this itself is concerned, these are not threat to your life. They are not physical threat. But what happens is this is a psychological threat for a simple reason, because in the human society, we consider to have a good work, good money, good this one to be a this one. So when something gets threatened, people think that is that brain automatically thinks like it's a threat to our life. So
Right.
it
So the response is like that.
immediately the response is like that.
Correct.
The response is like that. So because basically the body gets aroused. So
Right.
the thing happens to be that we need to consider that we are humans.
Yeah.
Okay. So what is the fundamental this one as far as the human, the biggest advantage that he has is his intellect, the brain that he has, the intellect.
Right.
Okay. So there is something that comes automatically. Okay. So stress is triggered automatically. Like suppose basically, okay, can anybody say, I won't have stress? No. Okay, because that's how it's programmed, it's built.
Correct.
Okay. Your instant, immediate reaction could be stress. Okay. But as a human, you need to use your intellect. Okay. And there are, when you apply your mind to it, there are also techniques to control the stress.
Right.
You control the stress, and after you control the stress, you can figure it out with regard to what is bothering, and then, like suppose find solution. Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yes.
Fantastic. So I have a question here from Ananya Rao.
Yes.
Okay. So Ananya Rao's question is, can stress ever be positive? Something that drives growth instead of harm?
Beautiful, Ananya. I'm so glad you did ask. Yes. Yes. And Ananya, what is good about it that in the event, if you use the stress positively, okay, so that what you rightly said, it can lead to growth and development. Stress can be used. Okay, let me explain a bit because this requires, let me share with you.
Yeah.
What is stress? Because your body gets aroused. You get excited, so on and so forth. You excited, the drive part of it. Okay. And there are such beautiful examples because this is what, as for positivity of the stress.
Right.
There are amazing examples where people actually use positive stress to be a big success. A case in point, which I'll tell you the story later, is Mr. Ambani,
Right.
Dhirubhai Ambani. Whether so you name it, whether Dhirubhai Ambani, whether it is Shah Rukh Khan, whether it was Amitabh Bachchan, whether it's Elon Musk, whether it is Donald Trump,
Right.
people have basically succeeded beyond that this one, so they have used the stress. So I'll get back to this one. So what happens is, so there is an arousal which comes across. Why the arousal? Because typically, as far as the brain itself is concerned, remember the brain is getting automatic signal. Yeah, it's not that this one. So typically, what happens is, what you see, what you hear, what you smell, so on and so forth. So automatic signal comes across, and the brain, it's like a very sophisticated computer. So it sees those kind of a signal, and then it comes across. Okay, listen, I find something, like suppose as far as the danger or whatever it is concerned. So it creates an arousal in the body. Now the arousal itself is concerned. So there is a rush of adrenaline.
Right.
So the rush of adrenaline, and there's something called a cortisol. And the rush of adrenaline that comes kind of a thing comes across. And a beautiful story which will exactly explain how the stress can be used. Like suppose is of a story which everybody will relate to. That is the story of Sachin Tendulkar.
Right.
That story has to be told. Okay,
Correct.
so because see, remember, as far as the Sachin Tendulkar, when he did go to Sialkot, he was just
Mm.
16. Okay,
Correct.
and the Pakistani bowlers were just awesome. So you had their captain this Imran Khan and Wasim Akram and Yunis. Okay, they were bowling like suppose basically at about 150, 160 and kilometers per hour. And Sachin, when he first, faced the first ball, it hit his face, his nose got broken,
Yeah.
and the blood was streaming in. Okay, so A, he was hurt. B is they were terrors, the Pakistani bowlers over there. The C
Mm.
part of it happened to be there were people like Javed Miadad and the others who surrounded him at that period of time, and they started sledging him. And the Pakistani crowd also was chanting. So the kind of a pressure that he went through was
Yeah.
immense. Okay, but imagine the stress that he was going through at that period of time. But what he decided, okay, he said when everybody was asking him to retire hurt, to go to the hospital, he said no.
Yeah.
His famous word is "मैं खेलूंगा."
Yeah.
Okay,
That's right.
his famous word that I'll play. Sidhu, who was the other batsman at the other end, he came across. He said, "Are you a fool or what? Get back to the hospital." He said, "No, I will play." And
Yeah.
he was there with the blood streaming and all that, the kind of a terror that the Pakistani put across to him. He stood there. He took it as a challenge. And
Right.
he took it as a challenge because basically, so what happened was he kept his wicket intact, and to the end of the day, till there was a draw. What was
Yeah.
important? India do that.
Drew the
Is
series.
not
Yeah.
that is not important. What is important happens to be because he stood there.
Yeah.
India discovered Sachin Tendulkar because if he had retired, maybe he would not have got another chance.
Possible.
So
Yeah.
the difference here, what we need to understand happens to be that because because when the stress was there, he took it as a challenge. The situation itself is concerned. He said, "That's the challenge. That's the problem. I will come across. So
Kelunga.
here his answers. So
Correct.
that, it is within us to have the situation. See, the normal automatic thing that will happen is if you leave it to your brain, if you are lazy, the brain will think it is a threat and
Yeah.
it would trigger your animal reaction. You
Correct.
would get upset, you'll get angry, you would get because that is the automatic reaction that is happening. But if you think as far as the problem itself is concerned, you take that as a challenge. Okay, the same stress can make you determined. The same stress can drive you. The same
Yeah.
stress can give you so much of an advantage because an absolutely performance par excellence can come by using the stress. The only thing that happens to be it is just a shift of the button rather than allowing the brain to make you an animal. You
Yeah.
shift where you say, no, I'm going to be a human. This is a problem. I take this as a challenge, and that shift.
Sure.
And I've shared so many stories. Practically, you name them. One of the most beautiful story happens to be among the various story is of this Dhirubhai Ambani or your Shah Rukh Khan. Incredible. You
Right.
name them. Like they have used stress to make themselves a super success.
Correct.
Yeah.
So there are plenty of questions now,
Great,
Guru. I think you've
fantastic.
excited everybody. You've kind of
I'm
got
so
them
happy.
going.
Please.
So I'll ask you a few more questions. So
Mm.
this question comes from Rohit Nambiar. The
Yes.
question is, how can someone recognize early signs of unhealthy stress before it becomes burnout? So I here I'm obviously talking about what is called as bad stress. So
Yes.
what are the early signs that one can recognize it
Mhm.
and take preventive action before it becomes burnout? So
Yeah.
we'll take that one question. I'll ask you one more. So maybe you can address both together because this is again related to workplaces. So this
Yes.
question comes from Aditya Mehta. So the question is, how can workplaces encourage healthier stress management without just doing token wellness programs?
So beautiful. So amazing. Okay. Let me answer the first question. Nambiar, this one. Let me give
Sure, sure.
beautiful. I'm so glad that it's exactly getting related to this one.
Sure.
Okay. So there are theoretical way. Okay, and also let me practical. See,
Yeah.
what happens is, so the stress itself is concerned. Remember, it happens automatically. Okay,
Right.
it is triggered by your autonomic nervous system. Autonomic nervous system, like your heartbeat, your breathing, or your blood. Similarly, your autonomic nervous system is going to trigger. So here, when it does trigger, there are very, very clear-cut kind of a symptom that comes across.
Right.
So the physical symptoms, which you can recognize, which I also this one, as far as the physical, what it might be different for different people. I'm just sharing with you as far as
Sure.
my this one itself is concerned. So the first thing happens to be like, suppose typically you might have a shallow breath. Okay, you can figure it out as far as the shallow breath itself that goes across.
Hmm.
Okay. B part of it happens to be then you can figure out your heartbeat increasing. You
Right.
find that heartbeat kind of this one. The third, this one, like suppose typically what happens is you would find a headache. You might find a tension. In my
Hmm.
case, I find a lot of tension in the face as far
Face.
as concerned. And you'll notice there would be some kind of a chattering of your teeth, kind
Teeth.
of that's happening. Okay, you can also get this one, like there's a rush of blood
Hmm.
that comes across, typical rush of blood, the headache part of it, which goes this one. And there is that internal, that anger, that's aggression, there is that irritation, discomfort part of it, which goes across. The other thing that you can very clearly observe happens to be that because basically the discomfort which is there in the stomach,
Yeah.
so you will find this, stomach, the acidity itself that goes across the stomach discomfort, which would come. The other, this one, stress, like suppose basically what happens is there is too much of a thought also happening. There are constant
Negative thoughts.
this one as far as the thoughts. Okay, so various compulsive, impulsive, those thoughts part of it which comes across. And you would also find it becomes very, very difficult for you to fall asleep. The sleep
Yeah.
gets disturbed because the thoughts keep on happening.
Yeah.
There is also this one you might find, that you want to get distracted. So you would want to see your mobile, you want to see something else, you want to get distracted because you don't want to face the situation. Many
Right.
time, like suppose people will not want to take avoidance kind of a thing. They don't want to mix up. They would want to be on their own. So
Hmm.
very, very clear cut. There are physical symptoms. There is emotional symptoms, anger, upset, and all that. There are emotional symptoms. There are mental symptoms. It becomes difficult to concentrate. It's difficult to focus. You can't do a work. Procrastination.
Correct.
You
Correct.
want to avoid that work. Okay, so the anxiety, which is an emotional sign, and
Right.
even the behavior. Okay, you would be shocked because there are also these signs. Somebody overeats or somebody
Undereats.
goes for those purchase because they get the dopamine rush. These are all typically, as far as the stress itself is concerned, the escapism, those kind of a thing that comes across. And this is a lovely question which Ketan did ask as far as the wellness program and all that.
Correct.
Okay, so that's an amazing kind of a scenario. Yeah. See, what I have this one realized, like suppose typically what happens is a lot of this corporate, they are focusing more, they are doing for the sake of doing because that target is given to HR that you have to do X, you have to do, that's a tick box. You do
Yeah.
this one, so they do, and you will have a stress management and all that, and people will come across, like suppose,
Correct.
yeah, see, a lot of respect for them. No, not that I'm not saying this one. So typically you'll have this one, like suppose your yoga or meditation or breathing that you do, or you ground yourself. Great, like suppose,
Hmm.
but having said that, what is the core issue as far as the core issue which is not addressed?
Hmm.
And a beautiful instance I want to share because rather
Right.
than giving a very theoretical, because I have an habit now practically wherever I meet, whoever I meet, I talk to them about stress and try to get the practical example.
Correct.
Okay, and I had a lovely experience
Hmm.
yesterday. Okay, so I met the chief manager of Union Bank of India, my branch at Lower Parel.
Okay.
Fortunately, some people allow, some people don't allow, putting their name, this one, so on and so forth. So this gentleman, like the chief manager, he did allow me this one, like suppose as far as, use his name. His name is Nitin Brand. Okay, this one, he's the chief manager of Union Bank of India, Lower Parel branch.
Okay.
So I asked him, like, suppose basically, like, typically the banker, like, how do you handle? You know, what this was, the stress with bankers and how do they, this one, like, suppose,
Handle that. Yeah.
handle that and all that. So his answer was beautiful. And I think it was amazing. I need to share this.
Sure. Go ahead.
So he said that, okay, listen, see, what happens is for us, we have targets. Okay, so they have multiple number of products. So banking is one, they have insurance, they have so many products that they need to do. So the various bosses will call across as far as the branches itself is concerned. So the branch, he will be receiving early morning, he'll receive the various kind of a call. So I said, like, suppose how you handle it. He said, this one, like I have adopted a Zen kind of an attitude. When they call, okay, I listen to that. Okay. I listen because they tend to, this one I call, I, as far as possible, I don't let it affect me.
Hmm.
Okay. Because I understand where they come from. Okay. If
Right.
I was in their position, I would also,
React the same way, perhaps.
yeah, and I would also impose. So what happens is early morning, I wake up, I say, okay, my target, this one's. So the daily targets are not to be met because see, I have to finish my target as far as end of the year, I have to show my performance and so on and so forth.
Correct.
But if I take the pressure, daily, it's going to affect me. Early morning, it's going to affect me because it won't this one. And if I put across, so I said
Right.
fine because like suppose there is a pressure on my boss and he's putting a pressure onto me, and I listen. kind of this one. I said, fine, I'll kind of this one. Other thing happens to be there are times when they shout at me or something, it comes across because they get upset and all that. So I say, for me, this one happens to be is like my elder brother or is like my father. So,
Hmm.
if my father shouts or if my this one, I said, fine, because I try to empathize with him that what is he going through? There
Hmm.
could be a possibility that in the evening he does not even remember because in the morning he had pressure, he had this one. So he would not come across, like suppose typically as far as that. And the other, this one, I have my schedule. I follow as far as the schedule. I try to see that my people are isolated. I work like in between kind of this one. So I give my targets to my people, but I see that the stress is not passed on and so on and so forth. So I become this one. And the other beautiful thing that he happened to say, because I'll also come across, what can be done with regard to handling as far as the corporate situation itself is concerned. And it is also covered in my book, that 100 stories. There are so many this one, especially the corporate.
Yeah.
One beautiful thing that he did say, and which I held on to it, he said that I don't take my stress home. Okay, how he
Ah.
does it? So he came across, he says, listen, when I go back home, okay, why my family, my kids should this one. So when I drive back, if I'm stressed, for 5 minutes, I'm there in my car. Okay. If it's too much, I go for a walk. I, get back into the normal this one. And then when I walk home, I am in a very this one as far as so that
Better.
I don't carry my stress back home. If I'm too much stressed, okay, I send a WhatsApp message to my wife that, okay, listen, I'm too much stressed today, so don't, just
Yeah.
give me a bit of this one, like
Break.
a break. Okay. I found it so practical,
Very nice.
So,
Yeah. True.
yeah. The other, this one happens to be like, suppose you see, there's no point, like I'm saying, theoretical. Here also, the practical aspect happens to be like, especially the private sector and all that, you wouldn't have that kind of a thing. So we need to protect ourselves. We need to take care of our this one. Because see, one very, very simple thing that remembers, see, because what happens is, as far as the corporate itself, as far as the corporate that goes across, okay, so the rat race, horse race that we talk, okay. So everybody, they are in the race. So the whip is last and people run. But also remember, the horse or the rat or the dog, which race is, it doesn't live for a too long. Okay,
Yeah.
because the more your heart beat, the more this one stress you get, the
Correct.
less is the life and more are the complication as far as the health itself is concerned.
Correct. Correct.
Your corporate will drive you, but the corporate will not be there when you're there in the hospital. So it is your job. Okay. So, like, suppose as far as the quarterly targets and all that, great. But it is your job to take care of yourself, as far as take care of your. Okay. And here I'll tell you one very, very, this one, what I believe. A lot of people, when I talk to them, when I speak, when I understand, especially corporates and all that, a big fear or insecurity, especially the private sector that comes across happens to be like, suppose I might lose my job, I might not this one, the AI is coming, the AI is
Correct.
going to eat my job. So all that kind of a thing that comes across over here. Okay, so now see I'm not saying that, you don't know like what is the
Yep.
situation. Things are never as bad as we think. Like, but anyway, I'm not trying to put across. But a very, very important thing which happens, which I believe as far as the corporate itself is concerned, which the people who are there in the corporate, for heaven's sake, have an emergency fund. Okay. As far as if you have got money in your bank, believe me, about 60 to 70% of your stress is off. Because no matter what happens, okay, so
True.
1 or 2 year you are able to take care of yourself. In 1 or 2 year, you will find something or the other to do.
True.
Okay, so there will be a solution. But a large majority of the time, like suppose typically what invariably happens, because many of these people, they are in what I call as a golden handcuff.
Hmm.
Okay, what is the golden hand? Let me share with you. Like suppose I have got a friend of mine, like suppose amazing income. Okay, stock market, so on and so forth, amazing kind of good income kind of a thing. But always stressed. Okay, why stress? For a simple reason, because like typically he has like expanded his lifestyle in such a manner, in a big house, big society, big friends. Okay, and like I when we meet and so on and so forth, kind of a thing. Like if he needs to have a drink, he would have only this one, like suppose typically all those imported kind of a costing about $1,000 or plus as far as for a peg itself is concerned, because expensive kind of a lifestyle. The
Yeah,
wife, like suppose as far as the spouse itself, expensive lifestyle, the kids. Now, the problem there happens to be that there is an X amount of income that is required to
correct. To
maintain that
maintain that.
kind of a lifestyle. Okay. And when so there is always that insecurity, what if? Because there is not enough as far as the bank itself is concerned for the expensive as for a lifestyle. So, like first thing happens to be like, suppose basically, see, there can be change, things can be uncertain, but
True.
at the end of the day, like why we are working? Let's be very simple. Why are we working? For a simple reason, we are working because basically we need to earn money to maintain a certain kind of a lifestyle. That is
Lifestyle.
this one as far as, and how
Agreed.
does it matter whether we work X or we do Y or we do some, how does it matter? So the fact happens to be like, suppose tomorrow, if the pressure is too much, which you can't do, a toxic kind of a work environment itself is concerned, okay, so you need not, as long as basically you have the bank balance wherein, you can
Yeah,
always take this
take care of.
one, as far as the take care itself is concerned. The other important thing that happens to be like, suppose there are two things which I would share as far as the corporate itself is concerned. So the corporate part of it, like suppose, typically have what is called as a mental reset, a mind reset. Okay, a mind reset, like suppose what happens is like suppose practically say an hour into it, as far as the work that you do, an hour into it, and take a break for 5 minutes. Okay, and take a break for 5 minutes. And if nothing, like suppose even if you don't do any kind of a meditation, like even if you're mindful of your thoughts, okay,
Yeah,
thoughts have a tendency, even if you're mindful as far as your thought itself is concerned, okay, so automatically it settles, because once you start paying an attention to your thought, it has a tendency to settle.
settle down. Yeah,
Okay, so as far as the settle itself is concerned, so that part of it becomes important. And the
right.
other very important thing that I would suggest, especially people who are there in the very stressful kind of a job situation, maintain a journal. Okay, maintain a journal. Okay, a journal is like a therapist. Is like if you don't have somebody to share.
Yeah,
Okay, if it's there in your mind, don't keep it inside your mind. If there is anything, like suppose basically making you insecure, making you upset, making you this one, put it down into the paper. So once you put it down in the paper, so the benefit of putting down on a paper happens to be that you are engaging your touch, your fingers,
right.
engaging your mind, you're focusing. So once you are focused doing that, you get more rational thinking. You get much more
Okay.
this one. So when you
Beautiful.
take it across, so you're more relaxed. And that relaxation can also lead to a good sleep, because things are not working in your mind.
Correct.
Sleep is an absolutely the best possible stress buster there can be.
Right.
A, B, also exercise. The movements itself is concerned, because
Movements.
the cortisol which are there in your body, so that gets metabolized when you exercise, walk, or whatever you do. So you need to put across that. So
Right.
typically what happens, you might not have a control over the outside situation, but you can definitely have a control over yourself,
Your own self.
or this one is concerned, how you control.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
So, now we'll change track a little bit. So, you have this organization or initiative called SRI.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about what SRI is? What are some of the things that you do as part of SRI?
Okay. Okay. Let me see. Prima facie, right now, SRI is absolutely new. Okay.
Okay,
What is the idea behind it? What is the
sure.
SRI means, SRI means that Stress Research India, SRI. Okay, Stress
Okay,
Research India itself is concerned. And SRI also means, when we come to this one, SRI also means something as far as a term that we give to a higher person.
right.
Okay. So we have Sri Rama, Sri Lakshman, Sri Balaji Tirupati, Sri Modi, whatever it's concerned. Sri is the higher person itself is concerned.
Okay,
I would like all the people to identify themselves as Sri, as far as the higher person.
okay,
Okay. Why? Okay. Why? For a simple reason. Because even when you think about your stress are triggered by a lower brain. And your higher brain is where your intellect is. So the lower brain itself is concerned, like suppose anything that happens, overall, whatever this one, so you find something that you're not happy with it, something that you find it threatening, so on and so forth. Okay, you might get stress. But if you are a higher person, okay,
mm,
is the higher level itself is concerned. So if you are above it, okay, so
mm,
the chances of getting stress are lower.
sure.
Now, I'll give you an example. What I mean by above it itself goes across. Now, let me share with you. Okay. You read newspaper in the morning. Okay.
Correct.
And then there is Trump jumping around, and then there is something happening in China, and all that. Like suppose overall there are so many things that is happening. Let's be very, very honest. How does it affect you? It might, macro. I'm not saying. But the fact happens to be, see, all these are beyond that kind of a, like suppose beyond global kind of a thing that is happening. So
Correct.
impacting you and me would be quite this one. So you see, like suppose just rise above it. Don't let, why trigger the cortisol within him, the stress hormones within
Correct.
yourself for what kind of a, this one that happens, that overall this one that goes across over here. The other Sri that let me give you this one, like, let me just share with you. Like, typically, I don't know about others, but our society kind of a thing, there are so many messages, like suppose typical, this one, like 100, kind of a message, this and that kind of a thing, like suppose so much gyan being this one, okay. And there are so many, by the time you look at those kind of a thing, like suppose Jarange has finished that entire kind of a, okay. This one is that, okay, listen, like suppose basically what happens is like rather than getting stressed about this, okay, be a boss, be free, think yourself be about that, don't let your peace of mind, your health is more important. So rise above it. So there are like potholes, okay, the rain is going to come, the weather is going to be bad, you might this one. So the fact happens to be let no little things, like suppose the hazards, irritation part of it are going to be this one. So let's not have that kind of a. So
Correct.
rise above that. Rise above your ego. What happens in our family? Okay, you have an argument with your wife because it's her ego, your ego, or the spouse itself is concerned. Rise above this one. There's no harm in saying sorry, as long as it keeps your mental peace itself is concerned.
True.
So here the thing is that I am this one as far as Stress Research India. My objective happens to be that suppose typically would want to put people like Sri as far as the higher person itself is concerned.
Okay.
In Sri itself, that I plan to do as far as God willing, if there is this one. This is a mission as far as for me in my life. So typically, what have happens to be like suppose it is going to be a Sri way of life. Now, Sri way of life is here. It's very important because like why do we get stressed? And the question that came across that whether you can use stress.
Mm,
See, a simple thing, why do we get stressed happens to be because there are automatic negative thought which comes across in your mind. It comes automatically.
right.
but you are a human. You are an intelligent person. Okay, so if automatic negative thoughts can come in your mind, you can also have deliberate positive thoughts in your mind also.
True.
And you can deliberately this one. So what stops you? Early morning, like basically having a conversation with yourself, having a
Correct.
positive, like suppose as for the conversation,
Yeah.
finding yourself beautiful, finding yourself strength, finding yourself good, finding yourself happy. Why
Right.
not? Okay. And the other, like suppose let go of the little thing itself is concerned. Have a conversation with yourself rather than your mind having a negative conversation going across within you. You can
Right.
counter that as far as with the positive kind of a conversation. You can counter, you can talk to yourself to a situation where you can basically trigger positive hormones within you. A
Right.
dopamine, like suppose the dopamine that comes across, you can trigger that positive hormones because here, if you are recognizing yourself, you are recognizing others. If you give, like suppose typically what happens is like suppose if you feel good about yourself,
Correct.
okay, automatically the dopamine has to be this one. So here the thing happens to be rather, see, we already have an automatic radio which is going across inside the mental chat, a chat kind of thing. So I'm saying in three way of this one, as far as the countering that with the deliberate, shifting that station with a deliberate positive kind of a scenario so that, we trigger the positive hormones, feel good, feel happy. And
Correct.
that's how I would be planning to create Sri group itself would have like suppose a meetup where you
Okay.
have a, stress busting meetup. You have a meetup where people come across, sing, dance, be happy. Like,
Okay.
take out that kind of a this one. So enjoy as far as the life itself. See, life will keep on
Superb.
happening.
Superb.
So this one. So that's what I have in mind. And God willing, I
God willing, you'll be able to do it.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So this is the last question,
Yes.
Mr. Shetty. So what next? I mean, one is your Shri, you want to take, to
Yeah.
make it practical. I mean, what all the tips that you've given are very, very practical tips.
Yes.
They are not, some esoteric, uh, theoretical ideas. These are practical, implementable ideas that you've given, and you're saying that using the Shri platform, you may want to, bring that to the people. So, is there a fourth book being
Yeah.
planned? I mean, what
Yeah.
next for you?
Yeah. So I am already writing my fourth book.
Okay.
Okay. And the fourth book, the title would be Freedom from Stress,
Wow.
the
Okay.
way of life. Living life sensibly, rationally, intelligently, the higher mind. So here also, like my previous book, I'm formulating about 100 questions and answers
Okay.
in various aspects of life. So the whole idea happens to be that the person, instead of living in stress, he rather than an animal, which we call as far as the lower this one, stress is the animal kind of a response. So the higher part of it, the higher human. So there we are coming about with the three way of life. So the person lives sensibly, rationally, intelligently. Okay, so that I explain the entire kind of a thing, and then I take it to the next level wherein you can, because trigger the feel good hormones
Right.
in the given situation, like the situation can be this one. So, like, suppose basically, see, there is no reason why you can't be happy. You can be happy in any season for any reason. Or you can just be like, suppose, as far as the happiness itself is concerned. So rather than, like, suppose the what we call in Hindi, the big hawa of stress kind of a thing. No, so we, like, suppose we can have the problem and challenges are going to be there in life. Fine, there are going to be
Correct.
solutions. Some are going to be immediate, some are not this one. So there are always going to be, like suppose, and there is a method, like suppose even there I've come across, like suppose with regard to acceptance, the act kind of a thing.
Yeah.
There are various this one that I come across. So this is
Sure.
what I'm going to come into the three way. So the next level of this one.
Fantastic, Guru. I'm looking forward to reading that one. I've
Yes.
almost finished reading your 100 stories. So, you know, thank you very much for
I
sparing
hope
the
I was
time.
of a big help. Like I was of this one. Like suppose
I
basically,
think so.
I'm
I mean,
I'm so eager to share wherever. Like suppose wherever it can help. If
yeah,
it reduces stress, that's my mission.
fantastic.
Wherever.
So,
Yeah.
On that note, thank you very much. Thanks for sparing the time.
Thank you. Thanks a lot. Thank
Have
you.
a nice day ahead.
Thanks. Thanks a lot, sir. Thank you.